surprise. But, people getting older.
And they didn't release any money numbers like that.
Yeah. I think,
has that leaked out yet?
No, I don't think we even know the Bob Dylan number. I think it was just.
I thought Bob Dylan was like $300 or $400 million. I thought it was something
That's exactly what we all know.
Okay.
We hear it's like $300, $400 million.
So does in a deal like Bob Dylan, it's all his previous songs. Here's your lump sum. Go your way, we'll go ours. If he records something now, he still owns that, or that, it's not on.
But it depends on what the deal was. Probably they probably own everything. Yeah, they probably, like I said.
You want me to sign away my future?
So
my kid's future.
My great grandkids' future. I mean, I assume now is he's on Columbia Records still. He puts out an album. He collects all of the money from it, and his publishing deal is probably, Universal is going to get paid the publishing money, and they pay him whatever the agreed to rate was for records until he dies.
If you're an artist of that magnitude, though, it's either, and you're at that age where, maybe there's 10 to 20 years left in before you pass or less. You're thinking about it's either your estate planning sets up a corporation or a company of some kind to manage that
probably exists already, right?
Well, yeah,
like Bob Dylan already was a company, right? So,
yeah. But that's like you were saying. There's a lot of upkeep to keep track of all his royalties and all his money and all this.
Well, yeah. And so that's what you could. So the thing that is rare, that's special, that's happening right now is people are selling. Right, as opposed to, he could have cut a deal with Universal Music that says, you write me a check now for $300 million and we'll share it 50-50. I still own it, but you get 50% of the money. But in fact, you collect 100% of the money until you get your $150 million back, or whatever the number was. But instead, he said, you could buy it outright and you never pay me a penny again. For $300 million or whatever it was.
That's nutty to me.
But Chris, at some point, right, either his heirs, like what I'm saying is that they have to keep that business going and keep that. You're paying lawyers and accountants, and you're tracking down all this money and all this usage.
Sure.
And so that industry or that business has to do that. I mean, you can kind of compare it to, Steve Jobs selling Pixar to Disney, or better yet, George Lucas selling his company to Disney, where it's just like, I mean, that's a cash cow there, the same, if not more. And it's like, okay, $2 billion in cash, $2 billion in Disney stock. He got stock too, right? So
let's kick it back to Bob Dylan and say, if Bob Dylan puts out a record in 2021, he writes a pandemic record and he puts it out, John, how much, and there's no obvious radio hit, let's say, how many people, how many units or whatever, however you want to quantify that, would you say that would move? There must be just a diehard contingent that's that's the new Bob Dylan record.
Mm-hmm. I gotta own everything. I've been a fan from day one. Right.
Yep. And they're just gonna pick that up. So how many can you bank on? Does it still make money? Does Bob Dylan, when he's just I gotta have this guy on the record, I gotta have that guy on or is that it's gonna make money regardless? Just because he's Bob Dylan. He's his own brand.
What kind of money Bob Dylan could make on a new record?
Yeah.
Would it be successful? Would it be considered a successful thing? Just Bob Dylan puts a record out, it's going to move X amount, period. And therefore always be a profitable thing because it's Bob Dylan.
No, I bet you. I at this point, Bob probably gets a nice check, or someone like a Neil Young probably gets a bigger chunk of money for making an album than it can make back. Right? It's almost like think about the fact is like when they give like an old actor an Oscar. Yeah. And you're like, wow, he really deserved the Oscar for 3 movies ago. Yeah. And they're giving so the money is kind of to keep him happy and keep his, it's like, I mean, you're talking, these are legacy artists. Sony sells a boatload of Blonde on Blonde every year. The biggest selling piece of vinyl is still Abbey Road. Right. So it's like so if Paul's going to go out and tour and Bob's going to go out and tour and, put out records, or like in Bob's case, his big money makers are the bootleg series. That's the stuff I buy. It's like, oh my gosh, it's the expanded self-portrait album with, 3 extra so that it doesn't matter if it's new or not, but Bob's I actually think probably does better than Paul McCartney, even except for actually maybe it's a little more balanced because Paul goes out and works it. Mm-hmm. Bob lets the rock critics just drool all over it and how it's a return and it's genius and he actually makes they're worthwhile records. I can't always say that about Paul.
Bob Dylan is doing the classics, the kind of thing where he covers
I find
those
like the Christmas record and stuff that. I find ridiculous, but that's what you gotta that's what people always think about one project at a time, but it's really about the relationship with the artist and the career and all of that, because when Bob puts out a new album, all his old catalog sells. That gets us talking about Bob and thinking about Bob, and so you know what, I don't own Nashville Skyline, I really should grab Nashville Skyline.
Do you
that's really what it does.
Do you think
that feeling,
the movement towards those top tier artists selling their body of work is being perpetuated by this digital movement where like we're hearing that nobody's really making money off of the internet, and
that's bullshit. That's, by the way, I'll tell you, that's absolute bullshit. The reason you were hearing people saying that they're not making money off of digital, is because there are something like, I want to say there's like 6 million artists on Spotify, and only 50,000 of them make minimum wage or more, right? Mm-hmm. How different do you think that is than ever?
Same,
aren't you shocked that 50,000 artists make minimum wage on Spotify?
Yeah, that's a pretty good amount. Right. Yeah. So what percentage?
Taylor Swift's not complaining about royalty rates.
She was, though, for a while, right? She started her own thing. That title.
She was more upset about the fact that it was a free service that you didn't have to pay. Because she was on all the other service. She fought about wanting to be on the free tier at Spotify. So that was a different argument. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers fought because they didn't want their albums, because they're works of art together. They didn't want them broken up into individual tracks that you could cherry pick. Yeah. It was a lot of, nose sniffing like BS about that, but no, I mean, artists.
What do you think though? When I hear you say that, I hear two things. Like there's disdain and rightly so for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, But when I hear you say it, I can't tell if you're saying that as where did they get off? Like, would that be okay for? Would it be okay for Marvin Gaye? Like, if he was alive, that would be okay for James Brown to do that, or maybe not because he's a singles guy. Right? But I'm thinking of okay. So
about Prince? Like Prince has a
Pink Floyd. Let's just say that, you couldn't change Dark Side of the Moon.
But let's put it this way. The Red Hot Chili Peppers signed a deal for a lot of money for Warner Brothers to own their records. They don't own their records. Right. That's the whole thing. It's like you can't sell something to somebody and then say you still control it. So that's what deals have changed over the years now, where now you have what they call 360 deals, or even, where it's profit sharing, because and now this is going to sound much more labely than it really is meant to be, is right. Record labels they're now just streaming, right? They've saved a lot of money in production. They don't have to, print anything. They don't have to put it on trucks. They don't have to even call up record stores to sell it to them. It's just all up there. So at this point, it's become, the digital service has become very profitable for the record labels. But the end of the day is the deals are now, okay, I'm going to, quote, sign you to a record deal, but we're now going to share in ticket sales and merchandise, and because the role now becomes, I'm the record label, I'm your bank, essentially, right? So that's where.
Deal, so you're saying the record companies are getting into the band's merchandising.
Yes, but also the bands in most cases get to keep their sound recordings too. They get to, they essentially, it's a lot of times it's a license. Okay, we're gonna spend the money for you to make a record, but after so much time, it's gonna revert ownership back to you. Like, it's like, sometimes it's like we get to exploit these records for 10 years from the date they get released, type of thing, right? And then it reverts back the ownership back to you. Right now, obviously, if you were a baby band and you come in and you're excited, and you're stupid enough to sign a record deal, and give it away, or let them own you like that. Like, at this point, I unless you're an artist that gets on the radio, I don't understand why you sign a record deal.
Well, I was going to ask, who, from what you just described, why would you need to, or why would someone sign a record deal?
Well, because they're going to write them a big ass check and do work to make them even bigger, and I'm going to get my masters back. So I've negotiated a good deal where, okay, for the next 10 years, I'm in partnership, and I'm going to share revenue with big record label XYZ, and they have to do these things, and I've agreed to deliver 3 albums over the next 5 years, or X amount of sides, and after 10 years, I get it back.
But right? and I'll turn that around to your side as a record company. Why would they sign an artist, or they would have to think that now there's someone we could definitely sell like 1 million, 10 million.
Exactly. Copies. But you got to remember, in this day and age, it's like, I'm signing someone who already has, X amount of streams on, like, their SoundCloud blew up, or their YouTube videos huge, or they're managed by this artist that put together these 3 huge pop acts, and they already have a relationship with Dr. Luke to do 3 tracks on the album, or they're it's a singer from BTS's little brother. That 12 billion people already are following their Twitter account.
BTS is coming up.
Yeah, it's all to me. It's moving everything up to like this ridiculous level, which to me that makes room for indies.
I would think that
so there's going to be an underswell of really creative stuff that, like, they're not paying attention to. Right?
Major labels would get near it. I would think if you are an artist with half a brain, I mean, I wonder why. If you've already done the work and gotten on the internet and got a following, I just think, like, why would I sign half that away to a record company? Like, what are they going to do that I am not doing already?
You could get a half deal.
Why not just continue doing what you're doing? Like with Justin Bieber, he got attention off of YouTube or something, or just putting stuff on YouTube?
Yeah, he was big on YouTube. Well, I'm saying, but you this work starts going down to, like, situation by situation. Some places it means a lot. Like I have all of these people, and I've made $100, or I've made $10,000, and someone comes along and says, we're going to guarantee you, 50 times that. You never, that's the thing. Or I'm tired of working this hard to do this, or I need to get to how do I get to the next level?
So let me take a recent example. You guys familiar with the Black Pumas? They, I think, were recently up for a Grammy. They're getting a lot of press. He's not a kid. The guitar player is like in his